This is a city. 6,000 earthen platforms, roads cutting arrow-straight through the hills for kilometers. And it was built around 2,500 years ago, while Rome was still a muddy village. There is just one problem. It's buried under the Amazon rainforest. In the one place every textbook swore a city could never exist. And for 500 years, we flew right over it and saw nothing but trees. This is the Amazon from above, the largest forest on Earth, and supposedly one of the emptiest places humans ever touched. The story everyone agreed on was simple. The soil here is too poor, the jungle too brutal. Nobody could ever build a city in it. A green desert. And anyone who claimed otherwise was either lying or didn't last long enough to be believed. Because here's the strange part. People had seen it. The very first Europeans to paddle down this river, back in the 1500s, wrote home about something that didn't fit the story at all. Riverbanks crowded with towns, they said. Roads, fields stretching for days. And then those men went home. The towns went quiet. And the forest closed over the whole report like it had never happened. For 4 centuries, those accounts sat in the archives marked one word: fantasy. So look closer, because under that canopy, something geometric is hiding. Straight lines, right angles, things forests don't make. And the man who staked his life on it being down there paid for it. In 1925, a British explorer named Percy Fawcett walked into this rainforest, looking for a city he called, simply, Z. He'd spent years convinced the old chronicles weren't lies at all, that a great lost city was waiting in the deep green, and that everyone had just stopped looking. The experts laughed. He went anyway, not alone. He brought his own son, Jack, barely 21, and Jack's best friend, Raleigh. They marched into the Mato Grosso, into a blank space on the map. The last anyone heard from him was a letter to his wife, carried out by a runner. He was about to enter unexplored territory, and he was sure of it. Then the jungle closed over all 3 of them, and they were never seen again. For decades, Fawcett was the punchline. The cautionary tale they told you about what the Amazon does to dreamers who believe in lost cities. Search parties went in after him. Some of them never came back either, and every body the jungle swallowed only made the lesson louder. There's nothing out there. There never was. So the textbooks made it official. The Amazon, they wrote, was a counterfeit paradise. Green on the surface, starving underneath. Rip down the trees and you'd find soil so poor it could barely feed a village, let alone a kingdom. This became one of the most confident ideas in all of archaeology. The pristine wilderness, untouched, empty, a place humans had merely passed through, never truly held. Case closed, for almost 100 years. But there was always one problem nobody could quite explain away. A forest this thick doesn't hide a single building. It hides everything. Stand inside it, and you can't see 30 feet. Fly above it, and all you see is the roof. You could walk straight across the heart of a buried city, and never know your feet were on an ancient road. So the real question was never whether something was down there. It was how on earth you'd ever see it, through a roof that swallows light, swallows people, swallows whole expeditions. And the answer didn't come from a shovel. It came from the sky. In recent years, teams started flying planes low and slow over the canopy, firing a laser straight down into the trees. The instrument is called LiDAR. It pulses hundreds of thousands of times a second, and while almost every beam bounces off a leaf, A few slip all the way through the gaps to the forest floor and come back up. Catch enough of those, and the computer can do something that feels like magic. It deletes the trees, every trunk, every leaf stripped away in the data, until all that's left is the naked shape of the ground itself. And the first time they did it over a valley in Ecuador, the ground was not wild. It was a grid. Straight roads, running arrows straight for kilometers. Platforms, thousands of them, laid out in neat, deliberate rows. This is the Upano Valley, in the eastern foothills of the Andes. 6,000 earthen platforms, 5 large settlements and 10 smaller ones linked together. Wide avenues cutting through the hills in dead straight lines. The way you plan a city, not the way you stumble through a jungle. Some of those avenues run straight for miles, 10 meters wide, sunk between banks, like a road built for a procession. But the real shock came when the dates came back. People were building this around 2,500 years ago, and they kept living in it for roughly 1,000. That's older than Rome's empire. 1,000 years before the Inca ever climbed into the Andes. This is, as far as we know, the oldest and largest city ever found in the Amazon. So who built it? That's the part nobody saw coming. This wasn't a few huts and a clearing. This was urban, engineered, organized, planned on a scale that takes generations and thousands of hands. And here's what should stop you. Upano was just the first place they pointed the laser. Because once you know what a buried city looks like from the air, you start finding them everywhere. Point the beam 1,000 miles south, down into the Bolivian lowlands, a flat, flooded grassland called the Llanos de Mojos. And it happens again. A culture we call the Casarabe. And at the center of it, 2 enormous sites, Katoka and Landivar, cone-shaped pyramids of packed earth, the tallest rising more than 20 meters, about 70 feet on top of artificial terraces. To build just one of those centers, they moved over 500,000 cubic meters of earth by hand. 10 times the dirt in the biggest pyramid the Highland empires ever raised, and around the pyramids, the same fingerprints. Kilometers of raised causeways shooting dead straight across the floodplain. Canals, reservoirs to hold water through the dry season, and one detail turns it from impressive to unsettling. The whole layout wasn't just practical. Pieces of it were aligned to the sky, the city built to mirror the cosmos overhead. So now we have two separate civilizations, 1,000 miles and 1,000 years apart, both building cities in the place that supposedly couldn't hold one. And if you think 2 is the end of it, it isn't even close. Point the beam at the headwaters of the Xingu River, and you find what one archaeologist named the Garden Cities. Clusters of towns built around great plazas, their roads laid out to the compass points, north, south, east and west. Once home to tens of thousands of people, and the pattern doesn't stop at the cities. Follow the river all the way down to its mouth, to an island called Marajo, where mound-building societies left behind painted ceramics so intricate, so masterful, they rival anything made anywhere in the ancient Americas. Then swing a laser back east, into the Brazilian state of Acre, and the forest floor is scarred with geometry. More than 450 geometric earthworks, perfect circles, perfect squares, traced by ditches 11 meters wide and several meters deep, some figures stretching over 100 meters across. Far too precise and too huge to be anything but deliberate. This is not one lucky find. This is a pattern. The same signature of planning scratched into the ground from the Andes to the Atlantic. And then comes the discovery that breaks the old story completely. They dug into the dirt and found the soil itself was man-made. Across the basin, in patch after patch, there's a layer of earth that has no business being there. Jet black, deep, rich. The locals call it terra preta, black earth. And it isn't natural. It was cooked, deliberately, over centuries. Charcoal, bone, broken pottery, food waste, all worked into the dead jungle floor, until it became some of the most fertile soil on the planet. Soil so good that 2,000 years later, it's still fertile. And we genuinely cannot fully reproduce how they made it. Think about what that means. The untouched wilderness was a garden. The trees that look so wild, many of them are the descendants of orchards. Somebody planted this forest. So this was never a scatter of lost tribes. It was a network. Cities tied together by roads, fed by soil they engineered with their own hands, holding hundreds of thousands of people. Some estimates run into the millions. A civilization the size of a country, sitting in the exact place we swore could never hold one. And then, it was gone. The roads emptied. The platforms went quiet. The forest grew back over the rooftops and erased them so completely that we spent 5 centuries flying over the bones of cities and seeing only trees. Why did they fall? Honestly, nobody fully agrees. For years, the favorite suspect for Upano was the volcano that looms right over the valley, Sangay, one of the most active on Earth. The story went that it buried the city under ash and ended everything overnight. It's a clean story. The problem is, when scientists went looking for the proof, they drilled into a nearby lake where ash falling from the sky would have settled and stayed for thousands of years. And the layer just wasn't there. No catastrophe. No single bad night. The city seemed to have emptied slowly, for reasons we still can't name. And the silence just hangs there, unexplained. And there's still people who'll tell you these weren't really cities, just farms and villages spread thin. But that sounds less like skepticism now, and more like the old story, refusing to die. Because maybe a city in a rainforest was never supposed to look like Rome. Maybe it looks exactly like this. Low, green, spread across the land, woven into the forest, instead of cutting it down. Maybe we didn't fail to find these cities because they were small. We failed because we were looking for the wrong thing. But there's one thing the lasers settled for good. Percy Fawcett wasn't mad. He was 100 years early. The lost city he died chasing was real. Not a golden palace, but something stranger and bigger than he ever imagined. Woven into the ground he was walking on the whole time. He just didn't have a laser. And here's the thought that should keep you up tonight. All of those surveys, Ecuador, Bolivia, Acre, the Xingu, added together, they scanned a sliver, a few hundred square miles of a forest that covers more than 2 million. If that tiny fraction was hiding cities this big, pyramids, grids, a garden the size of a continent, what is still sitting under the rest of the green roof right now, waiting for the next beam of light to find it? So I'll leave you with this. If you had one laser and one patch of jungle to point it at, where would you aim it? Tell me in the comments. That's the kind of question we chase on this channel. So hit subscribe and stick around. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you under the canopy.